Today we're going to be talking about alternators. Hey everyone, welcome back to Boost Geek, where we're going to be breaking down car parts and tech into simple, easy way to understand videos. Today we're talking about something that keeps your car body alive, the alternator. What it is, what does it do, and how does it actually work. Today we're going to be getting into it. Let's go. The alternator is a key part for your car's charging system. It is the part that generates electricity while the car is running. It is what maintains the battery charged when you're using your headlights, your AC, your radio, and more. Without the alternator, your car battery will actually die in a couple minutes. So you can think of an alternator like a small power plant under your hood. While the battery will turn on the engine, then the alternator will pretty much be over the battery to be able to keep the battery while you're using everything. Let's put a board over here. Let me show you how that works. Okay, so this will be your pulley. We're going to go a little more details on it when I'm trying to show you everything, but this will be the pulley over here, and that pulley will pretty much spin the alternator, making the inside of the alternator then spin, and on the inside you will have a coil with copper cables normally, and then you will have a magnet. The magnet will pretty much be spinning inside of the coil, producing energy. So the coil will be on the outside while the magnet will be on the inside, pretty much spinning, and that will generate the electricity. The electricity that is actually being created on a alternator is AC voltage. AC voltage is pretty much an up and down signal. So you will have the 0 point over here, right, and then over here we will have 12 volts, and then here we will have, let's say, minus 12 volts. That will be grounded. On an AC signal you will see this, it will go down, up, down, up, down, up. So what we have inside of the alternator to be able to fix this so we can use it, because remember, your normal car voltage or car battery will be DC. Now we will use a rectifier that will control this, and then it will pretty much cut this line, and then we just remove all of the ground ones, and we will just be using the stop ones, right? And then we will close it. It will be close enough now with the alternator, and the lines will be a lot more closer, that we were going to be able to pretty much eliminate and use a straight, wait a minute, we're going to make a straight 12 volt line now. So it will be a straight 12 volts now, because we're going to rectify that signal to be able to have a steady signal. So what's next now? It will probably won't be 12 volts, it will probably even be higher than that. So now we already have the rectifier doing that. Now we will need a voltage regulator. They pretty much will, because it probably won't be 12 volts because the car is spinning so fast it doesn't know what to keep it at. Because if you rev the car, then the alternator will be spinning faster when the car revs, but the coil will be making so much power that it doesn't know when to stop. So what do we do with that? We will pretty much have a signal. Let's say this will be, when you rev your car, it will be 14 or 15, let's say 15 voltage. This will go, and then will drop back to what the car wants to be. So some cars will have a controller that, like the older cars will have a controller that will always be the same, and some older cars, like the new cars, they will actually be able to control how much they actually want. So if they feel like the car battery needs more power, they will put more than 14, or let's say they will put 15 again. And depends on what RPMs you are, it will control it a different way. Now that we know this, let me explain to you a couple ways that your alternator can fail before we go we take an alternator apart. Okay, so ways that your alternator can fail. As you can see, we have the power cable over here. This is a perfect world example. Normally, what people would do to be able to save some cost and no need to pull another cable down is that you actually will have a starter motor over here in the middle. So the starter will get from here, and then your starter motor will actually be spliced into this power over here. So some of the stuff that normally happens on it is inside of the alternator something will fail, like the rectifier, or a lot of times oil will get into it because the place that they have, and then you will have an oil leak, and they will actually start leaking inside of the alternator, and then the electronics inside of it will go bad, or will have too much oil and will just not even make any magnetic field anymore. So that's one of the stuff that you can have is oil. Oil contaminants will affect your alternator, and it will. I know some Hondas V6s, they like to leak on the head gasket and the valve covers, so they will actually build up the alternator with oil, and then the alternator will fail. A lot of you guys are replacing those alternators. If you actually look on the box, it says if the car has an oil leak, we are not responsible of the warranty for this part. So check that out. If your alternator is getting covered in oil and it failed, that's probably one of the issues for it. Another thing that can fail is the rectifier. So, and your voltage regulator will probably fail after, because it's seeing a signal that doesn't want. So remember, the car runs on DC. Remember, the car runs on DC. Ooh, these markers are dying. DC, and this actually works on AC. But before it throws it from this cable, it's actually getting converted on the inside of the alternator. So if that signal starts getting all the way past that and then starts sending AC to this battery, one of the issues that you can probably see is this battery will start getting big or hot. After you do like a long drive, you can probably check over here and you can probably see a lot more voltage than what it should. And you can probably see this actually throwing a lot of AC voltage. You can go on your multimeter and you can put on AC, and you can probably see a lot of AC stuff. Some alternators, they use starting to fail, and you can sometimes even see the AC that is not getting the rectifier by the alternator. So for that you will probably start seeing like your battery will start getting big or hot. It will start even smoking sometimes. So you have to be careful with that, because that's one of the worst case that can blow your actually battery up. So you have to be very careful when you see that your battery is getting too hot or stuff like that. Check your alternator, because that's probably one of your biggest issues. So here is, let's put rectifier. Actually, let's put alternator, because that will be inside of the alternator. You can take it apart and see. Today we're going to be taking one apart. It's going to be a seized alternator. This is another thing that can happen. Inside of the alternator, obviously we have the pulley that will be here, let's say, and then you have a shaft, and sometimes you can have a bearing right here, and then you can have another bearing on the end. So the ones we're going to be taking apart today is seized. So this is not moving anymore. Sometimes it can give you a false for a lock engine, so that's why it's good when you have a lock engine to take the belt out, the drive belt that will drive the alternator and every other component on your car. Take it off and see if it's actually seized. When we bought this car, the guy was thinking that the engine was blown, but it was just the alternator that was seized and it wasn't letting the engine spin. So these actual bearings over here, they will get seized up because they will get dry, or they will just fail, and then it will actually stop the alternator from spinning. I have a couple more alternators here. We're going to be checking them out today, but that's one thing that can happen. So, all right, that's something else that can happen on your alternator. It can be seized, so like the one that we have here today. The other thing that we're going to be checking is voltage over here on the battery. Sometimes one of the easy ways to check, at least for the alternator, the oil, and the actual alternator filling, is checking on your battery. Get a multimeter, and then you can check right on your battery. When you start the car, you check the battery while it's not even charging, while the car is off, and it will probably, the good amount will be 12 to 12.7. 12.7 is being the best. 12 or like 11 is the battery that is already dying, but it's still fine, obviously, because it's starting the car. So you will check it like this with your multimeter. You will put power to power and ground to ground and check for voltage. Remember, DC, you don't want to put on AC. A lot of times you can confuse yourself and you can be like, why is it not getting me any voltage? The battery is probably dead. No, it's not. You probably put on AC instead of DC. So make sure you have on DC, and then we can check over here. It's probably going to be around 12 to 9, let's say. It's not 9, it's already getting pretty low, but obviously we're checking your alternator, so it might be bad. From there, you turn your car on. If your car can turn on, then we will actually make sure that this voltage is going up. So it should be going up from 12. It will be going up, depends on the car, but it will go from 13 to 14. Even sometimes the new cars, when the battery is like actual super dead, it will actually jump and go to to 15 or 14 sometimes, to be able to do a fast charge and then slowly keep charging the battery up. So that's something that can be up. Let's say you don't see anything changing, then we check for this cable. This cable might be broken, so you go straight to the alternator. So we have some alternators here. You're going to go to the back of the alternator. There should be a big bowl that has one thick cable going through it. That cable is going to be this cable over here. Remember, the alternator gets grounded by the chassis, or the actual chassis of the alternator that is going to the engine where it bolts. That's where it gets grounded, and then it actually gets just that power line, and then here you have your control signals. This can be fed into. So let's say your alternator is not, or your alternator light is on. This is what communicates back to that control system, or that dash light. So you can have this cable going broken, so you can ohm it out, but that's some ways that your alternator can fail, and some ways that you actually can check your alternator. So now let me go close up on a couple of these alternators over here. As you can see, here we have a Audi 2.0 alternator. This is a Honda alternator, like a 96 Honda. This is an Audi Q7 alternator. If you see this hoses over here, it's because it has coolant actually going into it to cool down that alternator. And then here we have the alternator from our 1.8 BW that we just bought, and then the alternator was seized, and this is the alternator that is pretty much we're going to be taking apart today. Okay, so as you can see, we have the alternator a little bit more close up. This one has just one plug on the back, and then it has where your big power cable will go. Obviously our pulley or way to attach it. You're probably going to see this is a lot, they pretty much look the same. Look at this one, same pulley on the front, different size obviously for a different engine, but same pretty much mounting. It has 4 cables that actually get powered by, or actually gets controlled by, better to say, and then it has the power cable here. This will be the main cable. So same with this one. You can see this one is a little bit more fancy, but still the same. A plug that has 2 connections on it. Let me see, there we go, 2 connections on it, and then it has the ports that will go in it, and then will go around the chassis to be able to cool down this alternator. So this one has coolant going through it to be able to cool down, because it probably will, when they designed it, it was getting too much heat for the kind of car that it was. It was a Q7, one of the biggest Audi SUVs that you can get. So they put coolant on it to be able to cool it down for how hot it was probably getting. So here you have your normal power cable, and then this, obviously your normal pulley on the front. See how it spins, and then mounting. Obviously the same. This one, pretty much the same. You have the 2 cables for the plug over here, and then we have the main power cable, and then obviously your mounting studs. Your mounting holes, better to say. So I already lose this one, so it spins over here now, but the actual nut, like if on the inside it won't spin, so it still stays up. So let me clean all these out, and let's start taking this one apart. I already lose this big bowl, like I said before, so normally they are pretty tight. You probably will need a air gun to hit it fast enough, or any gun that you can grab. So as you can see, it doesn't spin here. We have one big bowl holding that, or one big nut holding that over there. Then let's try to keep it organized. I mean, it's not like I'm going to reuse it, but taking this washer off. And then here we have our first bearing. So that's the first bearing over there. As you can see, that will be our first bearing. I don't know if that was bad, but let's keep taking it apart. So now I'm going to be trying to take this case out, so I'm going to lose this bolt. we have the alternator. Pretty much, as you can see, this is the magnet that I was talking about before. And then you can see the bearings over here. I find out that was actually the magnet getting stuck into this coil over here. But we have the bearing over here on this side, and then we have the bearing that is actually on the case that I wasn't able to finish removing, but there you have that other bearing over there. This coil over here, as you can see, it has this plugs coming up. This is why we'll be directing the power out, and then from here it's going to go just like that. It's going to spin, obviously. I cannot spin it right now, but it's going to spin like that. And then we're going to actually have here, we have the, what I said before, the controller for the AC, for AC to DC. This can go bad too on the inside of it. The dials are over here, can go bad. And the actual way they will transfer the, so like as you can see, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show, but like if you look here, these ones are pretty much some of the dials, and then that one too. So like there, if you see, it has like a little ball over there. That's pretty much the dial over there, and then the dial will get chassis to this, and then from there, this will go like that, and that's how you will convert your signal for the. This is how you will control that signal to be able to reduce it, increase it, whatever you need to do. See if the alternator is failing. This will tell the computer sometimes, oh look, like if you see some kind of signal coming out of these wires, it's because the alternator is going bad, turn the light on. That's how you can check it. But the thing that can go bad is these little T's over here, these brushes. It actually has a spring on the inside, and then these brushes will connect, or will try to connect all the time to this. What can happen sometimes is the actual brushes will get stuck in, or they will actually just be all worn out. So like if you can see, I don't know if this one is supposed to be like that, but there's one higher than the other one. So maybe it's because this one was getting more worn than this one. The other stuff is, if the car is making a noise on the alternator, that can be because of your bearings are going bad. Your bearings probably went dry and it's actually just making noises on it. That was the basis for the car alternator. This is a part that a lot of people might not be thinking about it, but it's pretty crucial. So if you find this helpful, like, comment, subscribe, send this to someone.